Keir Starmer announced last month that the UK is set to recognise the Palestinian state. But when he was confronted about it in this clip I'm about to show you, I've got one question. Why the hell does he look terrified? Hey up everyone and welcome to Political Nerds. I'm Steph the Alter Nerd, your nerdy political guide from Washington DC to Westminster and beyond. Now of course, before I jump into this, the usual disclaimer. Do your own research, come to your own conclusions, and I'm not inciting hatred to anyone or particular group, religion, etc. Now, before we jump into this clip right here, we do have a short message from our sponsor for today's video, Incogni, so let's go. As a former compliance expert handling data protection, I've seen firsthand how vital it is to protect your data and how absolutely devastating a leak can be. Your identity stolen, life upended in an instant. And with data breaches exploding year after year, spiking at 78% recently in 2023 alone, how the hell do you strike back? Well, allowing Cogni to enter the narrative here because they are the data bounty hunters. They hunt down the companies harvesting and selling your data before it falls into the wrong hands. Incogni locates, removes, and relentlessly monitors the dark side to the web to keep your information private forever. So don't get screwed. Don't become a victim of data theft and identity theft. Protect yourself now. Head to incogni.com/political nerds and for a very limited period, use code political nerds for 60% off an annual plan. And thank you so much to Incogni for sponsoring today's video. With that being said, let's jump into the madness, shall we? Because yes, Keir Starmer announced last month that the UK is set to recognise the Palestinian state unless Israel meets certain conditions. Now, when he was confronted about it in this clip I'm about to show you right here, guys, I've got one question. Why the hell does he look terrified? Here we go.
Your announcement that you may recognise a Palestinian state, you are getting backlash from all corners, from Benjamin Netanyahu, from former hostages, from now a group of top British lawyers who say it may break international law. What's your response to all of them?
Well, look, I mean, I particularly listened to the hostages.
Dude don't know what to say. He is freaking terrified at having to answer that, guys. Let's play the rest of this clip.
Emily Dwari, who I have spoken to, I've met her mother a number of times, and they've been through the most awful experience for Emily and for her mother, and that's why I've been absolutely clear and steadfast that we must have the remaining hostages released. That's been our position throughout, and I absolutely understand the unimaginable horror that Emily went through. Alongside that, we do need to do everything we can to alleviate the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza, where we are seeing children and babies starving for want of aid which could be delivered. And that is why I've said that unless things materially change on the ground, and we'll have to assess this in September, we will recognise Palestine before the United Nations General Assembly in September.
He looked and sounded terrified. And this is the thing, right? The interviewer made a good point that Keir Starmer has been getting a lot of criticism about this move from all corners, right? From lawyers all the way to, yes, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And here is Benjamin Netanyahu actually being interviewed by Trigonometry. And Yeah, here we go. This was shared on their X account at TriggerPod. You can watch the full conversation that Benjamin Netanyahu had with Trigonometry on their YouTube channel. But this was the clip that they shared that I thought actually was a good one to share here, given the topic of this particular video. So here we go on this one.
Prime Minister, you've just used the words, the Western leaders buckled, and I'm assuming what you're referring to is Keir Starmer's statement on the 25th of July, where he said that the UK would recognise a Palestinian state. What is your response to that? And do you think that is just going to essentially encourage Hamas to continue their resistance?
Yeah, of course it does. I mean, look, they commit the greatest savagery against Jews since the Holocaust. And the Prime Minister of Britain says, we'll reward you with a de facto state, which is committed openly to repeating the October 7th massacre over and over and over again. And they say, well, no, look, we recognize Israel's right to defend itself. You know, they always add that. You hear that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
of
okay.
Course.
Well, they recognize Israel's right to defend itself as long as Israel doesn't exercise that right. So now let's imagine what would be the response of Britain if, well, in your case, about 15,000 people or 10,000 people would be butchered in one day, and you'd have, I don't know, 2,500 hostages taken. You know, would you say, oh, well, we should give our attackers a state right next to London? Of course not. What would the Americans say if you had 50,000 Americans butchered, okay, and thousands of Americans taken hostage? Obviously, they'd say, no, we're not going to give them a state, sort of not in New Jersey, but right in Manhattan, you know. That's ridiculous. So what the standard that is being applied is not merely wrong, it's just downright dangerous, because you're really rewarding these monstrous terrorists with the greatest prize, and that's because of weakness.
If there's one thing you can certainly say about Keir Starmer, amongst so many other things, to be fair, he is weak. He is absolutely weak. He doesn't have a mandate in this country anymore. No matter how much he tries to bang on about last year's general election, that's gone. You see the recent pollings, and his dictatorship's party approval rating is like minus 56. It's broken records, but not in the way that Keir Starmer would want it to do, right? Hundreds of thousands, going into their millions, are signing petitions calling for an emergency general election, because the British people are now at a point where we want to remove Keir Starmer and his dictatorship in a legal, peaceful, democratic way. We've had enough. Keir Starmer and his Labour dictatorship have failed the British people. And now he's totally isolated. Because no wonder in this clip right here, he's looking and sounding freaking terrified. Because if he thought that he was going to get so much applause and plaudits, right, from leaders across the world when he decided to announce this last month, that's not happened at all. And when you think about it, since this happened, how has Keir Starmer's relationship been like with President Donald Trump? Yeah, not great at all. In that summit that they've just had over the last week or so to discuss the Ukrainian-Russia war, Keir Starmer wasn't sat next to President Trump. And when Keir Starmer actually spoke, not that many people on that table, which, by the way, they're world leaders on that table, not many of them actually took any notice whatsoever. As I mentioned in a previous video on this channel, the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, she looked away. She didn't have any time for him whatsoever. Not that many leaders do anymore. And now, when he is confronted as to, you know, the announcement that he'll recognize Palestine as a state unless Israel kind of meet his expectations, this, that, and the other. When he's confronted about that, dude looks terrified. Why? Because perhaps he might have realized that this actually was a massive miscalculation on his part, and it backfired on him spectacularly. With that being said, if you appreciated this video and you want more, and unfortunately with the state of the UK at the moment, there's going to be more, then make sure you subscribe to join our Alternerd tribe here on YouTube. If you're watching on X, make sure you're following me at Steph Alternerd. Like, share, comment down below your opinion, conspiracy theory, whatever. Do you think Keir Starmer looked and sounded terrified when he was confronted in this clip about this announcement he made last month? I think so, but what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I appreciate all your faces, and until the next time, you guys, laters.